I was reborn on the day when I confessed my love to my childhood sweetheart. Amid the jeers of the crowd, he looked at me with red and swollen eyes from crying and asked coldly, "Aurelia, is it fun to seek attention by making a spectacle of yourself?" Then he turned around and looked gently at his first love beside him. "Wait for me for a moment. I'll come to you after dealing with this." He impatiently lectured me, "Why are you always so fond of crying? If you have free time, read more books instead of thinking about love all day long." I was so annoyed that I pushed him away forcefully and threw myself into the arms of the school bully who was watching the fun behind him. "Honey." I hugged the person in my arms and couldn't stop crying. 18-year-old Kyler was still alive. Everything was still in time. 01 before Kyler died, he made a pinky promise with me, asking me to promise to live to be 100 years old before coming to find him. I promised him but then deceived him right away. I rushed to him on the third day. Before closing my eyes, I found an excuse for myself. When I saw him, I would say that I had dreamed that he was flirting with other female ghosts down there. In fact, I hadn't dreamed at all. I couldn't fall asleep without him. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back at the age of 18. I was holding a bouquet of flowers, and the jeers of the crowd rose one after another around me. "Confess. Confess." The crowd was surging, but I spotted that conspicuous yellow-haired guy at first glance. He was standing in a corner where no one noticed. His gaze seemed to casually and deliberately sweep over me. Looking at him, I couldn't hold back my tears instantly. Just as I was about to open my mouth, Maxwell's voice rang out. "Aurelia, is it fun to seek attention by making a spectacle of yourself?" In a daze, I just realized the person in front of me, his brows were slightly furrowed, and his expression was cold. The lively atmosphere froze for a moment. Until Vivian broke the awkwardness. "Maxwell, we need to confirm the award acceptance speech." Maxwell turned his head to look at her. "Wait for me for a moment. I'll come to you after dealing with this." His expression was unusually gentle. Vivian was as much of a top student as Maxwell. Someone once joked that the two of them were a perfect match, a top student and a study god. However, Vivian disdainfully dropped a sentence, "I'm not that kind of girl who only has love on her mind." At that time, Maxwell looked at her with rare admiration in his eyes. He had also told me that he didn't like girls who only had love on their mind. But back then, I was exactly that kind of girl who only had him in my mind. I even foolishly thought that when I confessed my love to him on my birthday, he wouldn't make me feel embarrassed. Later, I realized that he hated me for moral blackmailing the most. Just like at this moment. He took the flowers from my arms, looking a bit impatient. "If you have free time, read more books instead of thinking about love all day long." I was stunned for a moment. Whispers rose among the crowd. "Look, Aurelia is crying. She's been chasing after Maxwell for so many years, but now the campus belle has become a laughingstock. Oh, I feel so embarrassed for her. In my previous life, I did cry bitterly because of the embarrassment. But at this moment, in my eyes, there was only that yellow-haired guy in the corner." I stared straight at him, opened my mouth. My body trembled and I couldn't make a sound. Tears just kept flowing. Seeing me like this, Maxwell frowned and sighed. "Aurelia, why are you always so fond of crying?" I was so annoyed. He kept talking and blocking my view. I pushed Maxwell away forcefully and rushed towards the person I had regained. "Honey. Honey, it's so nice that you're still alive." Whoa. His chest was warm, with the familiar smell of sunshine. I hugged him tightly and couldn't stop crying. The body of the person in my arms stiffened. "Hey, sister. You've got the wrong person, right?" His face blushed all the way to his ears. "Aurelia, who are you calling honey?" Maxwell's voice came from behind, carrying a bit of anger. "How many times are you going to use the same trick?" That's right. In my previous life, in order to make Maxwell jealous, I often pretended to be affectionate with other boys. He would get angry and casually coax me a little. However, this time, the other person was the little hooligan he looked down upon the most. I hugged Kyler and cried even more bitterly. "Whoa, honey, you're really still alive." I couldn't believe it. I put my hand into his clothes, eager to check if there was the fatal wound on his chest like in my previous life. Kyler was quite frightened by my action. "Damn it. What are you doing?" I sobbed. "Take off your clothes and let me have a look." His face instantly turned red. "I'm a decent person." I cried even harder. "Whoa, honey, I want to see. Please let me have a look." He didn't know where to put his hands. Finally, he helplessly lowered his voice. "Hiss, wait. Can we do it when there's no one around?" Watching this scene, Maxwell showed disgust in his eyes. "Aurelia, don't you feel ashamed in public? This time, I won't coax you." Then he turned around and left. The crowd also dispersed unhappily. "Miss, aren't you going to let go after the show is over?" The voice above my head was a bit sarcastic. I just kept shaking my head, hugging his neck and crying in fits and starts. "No, I won't let go in this lifetime." 18-year-old Aurelia hadn't broken her leg and didn't have depression. 18-year-old Kyler hadn't blocked a knife for her yet. Everything was still in time. Kyler couldn't believe it and threatened me. Then I'll go out? He carried me out of the classroom. As soon as we went out, the voice of the dean of students came. Hey, Kyler, why aren't you training properly and instead hugging a female classmate and playing hooligan? I still held him tightly. Seeing that I didn't respond, Kyler blushed and explained, report, teacher. The female classmate's leg is broken. I'm carrying her to the infirmary. The dean's tone softened a bit. You kid, you're quite kind-hearted. Suddenly, I remembered that in my previous life, Kyler was also like this. He carried me all over the world to see doctors for my leg and accompanied me in rehabilitation training. When everyone had walked away, he looked at me, a bit frantic. Hey, Miss Aurelia, what are you up to? I still held his neck tightly and didn't let go. Honey. His scalp felt numb when he heard that. He gritted his teeth. Don't call me honey. Who's your honey? You're my honey. I pouted aggrievedly. I love my dear honey the most. His head was about to explode. He reminded me in a deep voice, Miss, do you remember who threw my love letter away yesterday? I felt a bit embarrassed for a moment. It really wasn't the right time. Kyler had confessed his love to me before. At that time, I stepped on the love letter viciously. I hate sports students like you who are all brawn and no brain the most. Come to think of it, I was also a dance student who was physically soft and not very smart. Actually, I didn't hate Kyler that much. It was because Maxwell hated him that I hated him too by association. He hated all fools, especially those like Kyler who had poor grades and were domineering at school. I blinked my eyes and explained sincerely, well actually what I did yesterday was a test for you. And I promised, honey I'll only like you from now on. The corner of Kyler's mouth twitched slightly. Can you stop calling me honey? I shook my head. No. He gritted his teeth and resigned himself to it. You can call me whatever you like then. Looking at me who was clinging to him like a koala in his arms, he sighed. But Aurelia. You're a human being, not a monkey. Can you get off me? But I want to hug you for a while longer, honey. His Adam's apple moved. The tips of his ears turned red. 18-year-old Kyler was really fierce yet cute. Kyler turned around and carried me to his second uncle's house. The old man was telling fortunes for people at the entrance of the alley and was always muttering to himself every day, Grandpa, it seems that she's possessed by evil spirits. The second uncle stroked his beard and took a look at me. Her eyes are bloodshot. She must be haunted by something. Then he took out a piece of yellow paper and drew a talisman on it. Stick this talisman on your body to drive away evil spirits. Kyler put me outside the house and told me, wait for me for a while. Don't follow me. I'll be back soon. I didn't listen to him and quietly followed him outside the door. I only heard him ask in a low voice, Grandpa, I actually want to ask if there's a talisman that can make her stay possessed all the time. I was secretly happy in my heart. Little guy, you've already been crazy about me for a long time. Kyler, in this lifetime, let me run towards you. I lived in Maxwell's house. Our two families were old family friends and we had an arranged marriage when we were children. When I was 10 years old, my parents died unexpectedly. Maxwell held my hand tightly. Aurelia, you still have me. I'll always be with you. I moved into Maxwell's house, and his parents were very kind to me. I had been practicing dance since I was a child, and his mother hired the best teachers for me. The wardrobe was full of beautiful clothes bought for me by Aunt Maxwell, but no matter how good they were, I wasn't their child. They originally regarded me as their future daughter-in-law. Until I broke my leg and couldn't walk normally, they thought that such a daughter-in-law wouldn't be presentable and said to me, Aurelia, we've always treated you like our own daughter. Maxwell also regards you as his own sister. Don't worry. We'll definitely find you a good husband. At the dinner table, Mr. and Mrs. Maxwell were putting food in my bowl and asking about my schoolwork. Remembering what they said in my previous life, I just felt it was a bit ridiculous. I put down my chopsticks. Uncle, Auntie, I want to live in the school dormitory. In this way, I can concentrate more on my studies. You know that my academic performance isn't very good. They were a bit surprised. How can you live in the school dormitory with such a poor environment? Aurelia, don't put so much pressure on yourself. Maxwell has good grades. Just let him tutor you. I calmly shook my head. No, he's been busy with competitions recently. I don't want to bother him. Aunt Maxwell seemed to sense something. Did you two have a quarrel? Maxwell didn't say anything. I smiled. No, he's been very kind to me. I've always regarded Maxwell as my own brother. In the future, he will definitely find an excellent daughter-in-law for you two just like himself. Maxwell's gaze paused for a moment, and he took a look at me. I didn't have much appetite and got up to go to the bedroom. But lying on the bed, just like in my previous life, the familiar feeling of insomnia hit me again. At that time, I had severe depression and could only fall asleep by taking sleeping pills every day. It wasn't until I got together with Kyler that I was slowly cured. People with insomnia are always anxious and irritable. I simply got up and went to the living room to pour a glass of water. Unexpectedly, I ran into Maxwell. Have something to eat. I saw that you hardly ate anything at dinner. He was holding a bowl of my favorite chicken soup wontons and put it in front of me. Are you still angry about what happened during the day? He squatted in front of me and sighed helplessly. I'm just angry that you're already in senior year of high school but don't focus on your studies. Seeing that I didn't say anything, he raised his hand and rubbed my head. Okay, don't be angry anymore, Then he chuckled helplessly. Little fool. He was always like this. After I was wronged, he would gently say something nice. I was also stupid and always forgave him again and again. I deceived myself into thinking that he liked me, because he would be gentle to me and do seemingly considerate little things for me. Seeing that I ignored him, he touched my hair again, with a doting tone. Do you think our future children will be as silly as you? In my previous life, he also said this sentence. At that time, I was extremely touched, thinking that he had thought about our future. Little did I know that after he and Vivian won the award, a teacher sighed. If these two get together in the future, how smart their children will be. He didn't want to marry me and have children with me. Instead, he was worried that being with me in the future would affect the IQ of his next generation. I forced a smile and looked at him. Don't worry. We won't have children in the future. Maxwell let out a breath and frowned. Aurelia, I'm also very busy. I don't have time to coax your inexplicable temper. I smiled calmly. It won't happen again in the future. Maxwell stopped coaxing me and turned around to go back to his own room. I went out with dark circles under my eyes and knocked on Kyler's door. Kyler's parents were divorced, and he lived in a house near the school by himself. As soon as the door opened, I familiarly threw myself into his arms. Honey, I want to sleep with you. You. He looked astonished, raising his hands and not knowing what to do. Hey, Aurelia, I don't have this kind of service. I can't fall asleep without you. I hugged him tightly, with a crying tone and exhaustion in my voice. Honey, I really want to sleep. He was frantic again, muttering curses. Sleep. Sleep. I successfully entered his bedroom. As soon as I lay on his bed, he hugged his pillow and ran towards the living room. I quickly grabbed his hand. What are you doing? Sleeping on the sofa. No, sleep together. I held his hand tightly, looking pitiful. I can't fall asleep without you by my side, honey. In my previous life, Kyler was like my comfort object. With him by my side, I always slept comfortably and peacefully. I cried and held him tightly, refusing to let go. He was so angry that he lay straight on the bed. Sleep then. Anyway, it's not me who will suffer. Let me tell you, a hooligan like me can do anything. He said harsh words. But he blushed and turned his head away, keeping a distance from me. I happily moved closer and hugged him from behind. My hand subconsciously reached downward. He hugged the quilt and sat up in shock. Aurelia, where are you touching? I looked aggrieved. I feel more secure when I hold it. You feel secure, but what about me? He tightly protected himself like a chaste and virtuous man. Sometimes, I really want to call the police on myself. You obviously liked it the most when I held you and we slept naked together. He couldn't believe it. What? When the hell did I like sleeping naked? After we got together. After we got married, Kyler fell in love with sleeping naked and even forced me to do it with him. He put it nicely, saying that it was comfortable to hug with our bodies close together. To be honest, it was really comfortable. Kyler stared at me with a head full of question marks. Aurelia, are you possessed by some kind of demon? Do you have to absorb a man's yang energy to survive? Then will you let me absorb it? His face instantly turned bright red, and he righteously refused me. Don't even think about it. I'm telling you, I'm a good student. I definitely won't be in a puppy love. But I really can't fall asleep without hugging you. I pouted. Honey. A hint of struggle flashed in his eyes. Well, just a simple hug. Is it okay? He was both frantic and helpless. I'm begging you. I didn't get together with Kyler until I was 25 years old. God knows why the flirtatious and playboy Kyler was so innocent at the age of 18. He was really cute and charming. 18 years old, such a pure and capable age. A pure high school boy, the favorite of rich women. It's really hard to resist. Then can I have a look? 18 years old, such a tender age. Something that's harder than a diamond. What are you looking at? He was like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. His ears were bright red, and his eyes were flustered. Aurelia, are you still a girl? Oh, he didn't understand. 28 years old, an age when one's desires are as strong as a wolf or a tiger. I bit my lip aggrievedly. Honey. It won't work even if you call me dad. He wrapped me tightly in the quilt like a zongzi and pinned me down from the outside. Go to sleep. Also, don't call me honey from now on. I nodded. Okay, honey. No, okay, classmate Kyler. The familiar scent, the familiar heartbeat frequency, my comfort object was back again. I looked at him at the age of 18 and said softly, "Classmate Kyler, I'm not possessed by evil spirits. Actually, I'm from 10 years in the future. I'm Aurelia at the age of 28. Oh, why don't you say you're a fairy descending to the mortal world? Really, I'm really from 10 years in the future." He nodded perfunctorily, "Okay. I'd believe it even if you said you were from Mars." "Don't believe me, huh?" I thought for a moment. I took a look at his lower body. "You have a mole there." He shuddered suddenly, and his face was full of shock. "Damn it. Aurelia, when did you peek at it?" I said, 7 years later. He calmed down a bit. "Are you really from 10 years in the future?" Then he couldn't help being curious. "Then did I win the world championship 10 years later?" "Of course. You won the world championship at the age of 22 and achieved the Grand Slam at the age of 25. No one in the whole world could swim faster than you." "Damn it, was I that awesome?" He was a bit excited and asked again, "What about you? Did you also become a famous dancer?" I lowered my head slightly. "Yes, of course." "Did we get married?" There was a hint of caution and nervousness in his voice. "Yes, we got together right after graduating from high school. After you won the world championship at the age of 22, you proposed to me in front of the whole world." His eyes lit up and he asked again, "Then, did we have children?" I smiled and nodded. "Yes, after we became unrivaled in our respective fields, you announced your retirement at the age of 28. I gradually shifted my focus from the stage to the podium. That year, we had our own children." I tried hard to suppress the sourness in my nose. "He didn't propose to me at all when he won the world championship. I was muddle-headed and made a mess of my life." Aurelia at the age of 25 was pulled out of the abyss by Kyler, but she dragged him into the darkness instead. Fortunately, at the age of 18, everything was still in time for us. I slept soundly and felt refreshed after the sleep. Kyler went to train early. He practiced swimming. Since he was 7 or 8 years old until now, he had been practicing day after day for over 10 years, challenging the limits of his body every day. The hardships involved were far beyond what studying hard in school could compare to. When I arrived at the classroom, I happened to run into our homeroom teacher. "Aurelia is here just in time. The graduation party is coming up soon. How's the rehearsal of the program going?" I was stunned for a moment and didn't quite react. My deskmate answered for me first. "Teacher, Aurelia dances really well, and the rehearsal effect she arranged for us is also great. When we add Maxwell's piano solo at that time, it will definitely be amazing. Our class will surely be the champion." Okay, then hurry up with the rehearsal. Only then did I remember that the graduation party was coming up soon. All the girls in the class were going to perform a group dance. The head teacher said that it was a rare relaxing moment. Everyone came to the dance studio to practice. The program was set as a classical dance performed by all the girls in the class, with Maxwell singing along and playing the piano on the side of the stage. Maxwell had been playing the piano very well since he was a child, and his tone was also good. I really wanted to win this honor for the class. I begged him for a long time before he nodded. But at this moment, Vivian was late for the rehearsal. Some classmates couldn't help but mock her. "I say, Vivian, the top student. You always make everyone wait for you. Can't you have a bit of a sense of collectivism?" Vivian looked calm. "Sorry, the principal just called me and asked me and Maxwell to give speeches as outstanding representatives at the party." Her voice was neither too high nor too low, but it showed a sense of superiority. Someone whispered, "What are you showing off for?" After seeing Vivian join the team, I continued the rehearsal just now. "Okay, let's review the movements from yesterday again, and then cooperate with Maxwell to do it once as a whole." Everyone danced quite well, except that Vivian couldn't keep up with the rhythm again. At this time, there were more and more voices of dissatisfaction. "Hey, Vivian, what's the matter with you? You didn't learn the movements yesterday. You promised to practice by yourself when you went back. Why can't you keep up today?" "Yes, don't hold us back, okay? Isn't a top student supposed to learn everything quickly? Can't you even do such a simple movement?" Everyone was talking one after another. A flash of displeasure crossed Vivian's face, and she replied coldly, "Why should a small graduation program take up my study time? Before you criticize others, you'd better look at your own grades. How dare you waste your youth here? What's the point of dancing this dance? Can it add points to your college entrance examination?" I couldn't hold back my anger instantly. "Vivian, it was clearly you who were late and didn't practice the movements well. Why are you shifting the blame onto others?" She sneered. "Aurelia, it was clearly you who wanted to show off. Why are you using others as a foil for you?" Someone couldn't stand it anymore. "This is a collective honor. How did it become Aurelia showing off? She's a dance student. Are you going to let someone like you who can't even get the steps right do the lead dance?" At the mention of this, everyone burst out laughing. Vivian's face looked a bit embarrassed, and she spat out a sentence disdainfully, I'm too lazy to argue with you. It's so boring. With just this one sentence, she made everyone angry. Come to think of it, Vivian wasn't very popular in the class. She once haughtily said, I don't like playing with girls. Girls have too many petty thoughts. I'm different from them. She was indeed different from us. When everyone was secretly reading mindless romance novels, she was holding Tagore's poetry collection in English. When the teacher asked her to share the solution to a problem, she wrote a bunch of complicated formulas and said, these are calculus formulas. You won't learn them until college. I guess only Maxwell can understand them. Many girls in the class thought she was too pretentious. But Maxwell regarded her as a kindred spirit. He even thought that I was the one who led the isolation and bullied Vivian. When Maxwell stood up for her, she just said faintly, forget it. I don't argue with fools. Maxwell then admired her even more. Someone once said that a top student like Maxwell liked girls who were on a par with him. They were into sapiosexuality. In his eyes, I was just a simple-minded art student. I didn't care and clapped my hands. In that case, Vivian, then don't dance. I stared at her and curled my lips with a mocking smile. After all, the way you dance is really funny. There was another burst of laughter. You? She was so angry that she couldn't say a word for a moment. Maxwell beside her couldn't stand it anymore. Aurelia, why are you so rude? Rude? I sneered. But in my previous life, after I broke my leg, she said to me in this tone, Aurelia, the way you walk is really funny. I was just imitating her. She didn't break her leg after all. A flash of anger appeared in Maxwell's eyes. Are you guys going to keep bullying Vivian endlessly? He stood in front of Vivian and threatened, I'm telling you, if she quits, I'll quit too. Vivian was so touched that her eyes turned red. Maxwell. I smiled indifferently. That's great. In my previous life, Vivian didn't want me to show off, so she deliberately fell down beside Maxwell's feet during the performance. Maxwell subconsciously went to help her. The accompanying music stopped abruptly. The whole program fell into a silent embarrassment. Everyone was flustered and couldn't find the rhythm, and their movements were chaotic. But Maxwell's subconscious act of saving Vivian was praised. Both of them had good grades and were already liked by the teachers. The teacher said that friendship came first and competition second. Maxwell's behavior was the most worthy of everyone's learning, and they were even awarded a special prize. When receiving the award, Vivian deliberately waved at me. Aurelia, could you please take a picture of us? The whole audience gave them warm applause. They both smiled brightly. While the girls in the class were so aggrieved that they were crying behind the stage. After Maxwell and Vivian quit, everyone was in a dilemma because of the lack of a singer. Aurelia, let's just play the background music directly then. Someone proposed helplessly. I waved my hand, it doesn't matter. There's someone who can take over. In my previous life, when I had severe depression, Kyler often held me and sang in my ear. He really sang super well. Later, after my leg recovered, he encouraged me to pick up dancing again and return to the stage. When I was dancing, he played the piano to accompany me on the side. I immediately took out my phone and called him, classmate Kyler, our program needs you to do a piano solo and sing. He didn't even think about it. I directly took out my trump card, honey, honey, honey. Shut up. Honey, no, I'll be there right away. I couldn't help laughing out loud. Looking at this reaction, he was almost like Pavlov's dog. Kyler came over reluctantly but very quickly. When Maxwell and Vivian learned about it, they couldn't believe it. How can Kyler replace you to perform? Maxwell snorted disdainfully, a sports student, what good music can he play? In his eyes, being a sports student or an art student was the way out for poor students. However, the doubts didn't affect our enthusiasm. When the party started and the lights were turned on, I led all the girls in the class to dance gracefully. The soothing sound of the piano and the deep voice slowly flowed out. Everyone was greatly amazed. There was thunderous applause and cheers from the audience. It's amazing. The girls in our class are so beautiful. Vocal. Chi Guifei, what other surprises do you have that I don't know about? Sports committee member, why are you swimming? You might as well debut. After the performance, Kyler walked up to me, looking a bit smug. Well? Didn't I embarrass you? I looked at him, with my eyes almost full of little pink hearts. Honey, you're the best. He raised his head. Of course. Our program received an extremely good response and won the championship without a doubt. Kyler and I went on stage to receive the award as representatives. The principal looked very pleased. I didn't expect that the students in our #1 middle school were so talented in art. In previous years, we always chose students with good grades to give speeches as representatives. But developing in an all-round way in morality, intelligence, physique, and aesthetics is our direction. I believe that in the future, our students will shine brightly in all walks of life. Well, Aurelia and Kyler, you two will give speeches as outstanding representatives then. We were a bit surprised for a moment. Our eyes swept across the audience. Vivian tightly held the speech manuscript she had prepared, with a look of unwillingness on her face. Maxwell's gaze fell on us, with a complicated expression. I stood on the stage and took a deep breath. Hello, everyone. I'm Aurelia. My mother was an outstanding classical dancer before she passed away. Under her influence, I stepped onto this path when I was 7 years old. From the initial basic skill practice, countless falls and getting up again, I never thought of giving up for a moment. What dance has taught me is not only graceful postures but also tenacity and perseverance, and the unremitting pursuit of dreams. My dream is to enter the Beijing Dance Academy and win the Tally Cup championship. Kyler also stepped forward immediately. His tall figure looked especially straight. Hello, everyone. I'm Kyler, a sports student who loves swimming. From the fear and despair of drowning for the first time when I was 8 years old to being as free as a fish in the swimming pool at the age of 18, the day-after-day training was a double test of my body and will. Failures, injuries, and doubts didn't make me give up because I have a dream. He paused for a moment, put away all his playfulness, and his gaze became extremely firm. My dream is to enter the Beijing Sport University and win the Olympic champion. There was a thunderous applause from the audience. At the age of 18, those once regrettable dreams will finally come true. After receiving the award and coming off the stage, the girls in the class swarmed over, hugging the trophy and taking pictures. Let's find someone to take a group photo for us, someone suggested. I raised the corners of my mouth and waved at Vivian. Vivian, could you please take a picture for us? After all, you're the only one who didn't participate. Vivian suppressed her anger and picked up her mobile phone. Kyler strode up to Maxwell, handed him his mobile phone, and wore a smug smile. Study committee member, please take a picture for me and my wife. Maxwell took it with a cold face. Kyler showed me the photo. Is it okay? I said, just SOSO. Kyler didn't feel embarrassed at all. Then I'll have to trouble the study committee member again. My wife isn't very satisfied. Maxwell finally couldn't hold back and roared at Kyler. Kyler, who the hell do you think you are? He wrapped his long arm around me and smiled especially brightly. Me? I'm Aurelia's husband. Maxwell's face turned livid, and he gritted his teeth as he looked at him. You, a sports student and a hooligan, are you worthy of Aurelia? The Olympic champion? You're just daydreaming. I took a step forward, looking at Maxwell. I sneered, Maxwell, in this mock exam, if I remember correctly, your ranking was 25th in the whole province. Do you know what Kyler's competition result was recently? 2nd in the province and 5th in the whole country. You're clearly the one with poor grades yourself. How dare you look down on others? I tugged at the corner of Kyler's clothes, turned around, and left side by side with him. Send me the photo. I want to use it as my phone wallpaper. Wait a minute. I want to use a beauty filter. How come you, a big man, are even fairer than me? That's because I've been pickled by the bleach in the swimming pool. After school, Kyler and I were on our way home when Maxwell stopped us halfway. I was very annoyed. What do you want? He explained, aren't you going to apply for the Beijing Dance Academy? Let's go home. I'll help you with your cultural courses. No need. In the past, when he helped me with tutoring, he was always extremely impatient. He couldn't understand why I couldn't understand such simple questions. Every time he helped me, it was like torture for him. I was wrong about what happened at the party. I apologize to you. He lowered his posture, and his tone was unusually gentle. Stop being angry, okay? I sneered, Maxwell, I've never been angry with you. You don't need to worry about my studies. If you're really that free, go and discuss poetry, songs, and life philosophy with Vivian. Aurelia, I don't like Vivian. He quickly explained and promised me, I'll fill in the application for universities in Beijing for the college entrance examination. After graduation, we'll be together. I promise you. I frowned and directly exposed his lie, but didn't you and Vivian just apply for famous overseas universities? Aurelia, I was just trying. I didn't really want to go abroad. I just found it extremely funny. In my previous life, he also said that he would go to Beijing with me. Until the day of my art exam, Vivian deliberately told me. Maxwell asked me where I wanted to go to university. I said I wanted to go abroad, and then he applied for the same school with me. Didn't he tell you? She put on a haughty air, with a look of disgust on her face. Aurelia, how long are you going to keep pestering him? He clearly doesn't like you. In the whole world, only Maxwell is worthy of me, and only I am worthy of him. That time, because of Vivian's provocation, I didn't get into the school I liked. Facing my questioning, Maxwell just casually explained that the advantages overseas were better and that he didn't like Vivian. He admitted our relationship and gave me the status of his girlfriend. He told me that as long as I waited for him for a few years until he graduated, we would get married. I believed him. When he graduated, he said that he wanted to focus on his career first. He and Vivian started a business together, caught the industry dividend, and their careers were booming. In those years, I was dancing in the dance troupe, not very famous. The teacher always said that I had good talent, but the movements I danced didn't convey emotions. Maxwell and Vivian became the golden couple in the media's eyes, a perfect match. The marriage he promised me had been postponed again and again, but I took a look at the numbers on the calendar. The college entrance examination was getting closer and closer. Anyway, Maxwell was going abroad soon, and I wouldn't chase after him anymore. In Kyler's small room, the two of us, who were poor students, were crazily memorizing books. Who signed the Treaty of Shimonoseki? It wasn't me who signed it. I know it wasn't you. In the northern darkness there is a fish and its name is Kuin. The size of Kuin, the size of Kuin. It can't be stewed in one iron pot? Tired of studying? Want something to eat? Okay, we were busy for half the night, but the knowledge just wouldn't stay in our heads. The next morning, when Kyler and I went out, we unexpectedly ran into Maxwell. Beside him were his parents. The several of them had gloomy faces, showing shock and anger. Maxwell questioned me first. Aurelia, you didn't live in the school dormitory at all. You've been living in his house these days. I didn't deny it, yes. Hearing this, his parents' expressions changed instantly. Aurelia, you're a good girl. How could you be so shameless? We've always treated you like our own daughter and raised you like a young lady since you were a child. How could you be so depraved as to live with a little hooligan? Go home right away. I stood there quietly, listening to their sarcastic remarks one by one. Then I curled my lips and said calmly, Uncle, Auntie, I'm really grateful for your care over the years. But I'm already an adult, and I can walk my own path in the future. You've indeed spent a lot of money on raising me over the years. But after my parents passed away, the business they left me has been managed by you on my behalf. The profits obtained from it should be far more than the money spent on raising me. I won't ask for it back. Consider it as my gratitude for your kindness in raising me. But I won't trouble you anymore. I'll find a lawyer to handle the handover. Hearing this, the two of them became furious instantly. Aurelia, do you think we raised you because we were after your family's money? Sure enough, it's different if you're not our own flesh and blood. After raising you for so many years, we've raised a white-eyed wolf. You're not smart, but we've never disliked you. We've always regarded you as our future daughter-in-law. But how did you repay us? Are you worthy of your parents in the underworld by doing this? Scenes from the past flashed through my mind. In the past, I naively believed their words and struggled bitterly in their indifference. But in this life, I would never let others bully me again. Oh, you regarded me as your own daughter? You regarded me as your future daughter-in-law. In my previous life, everyone was shipping Maxwell and Vivian. No one knew that I was the real girlfriend. I was unwilling to accept it and exposed my relationship with Maxwell on the internet. Mr. and Mrs. Maxwell angrily questioned me, Aurelia, don't you know that this will ruin Maxwell's image and affect his career? He's already given you the status of his girlfriend, and we've also acknowledged you. What else do you want? You're idle all day long, always jealous. Look at Vivian. Why is she so excellent? When facing media interviews, the two of them said, Aurelia, because she had an arranged marriage with Maxwell when she was a child. Her parents died early. We felt sorry for her and adopted her. We've always treated her like our own daughter. She's been clinging to her brother since she was a child. For a while, my name was on the gossip news. An arranged marriage set in childhood. What era is this? Why is there still arranged marriage? They adopted her, but she repaid kindness with ingratitude. She's really a white-eyed wolf. Obviously, that shining stars couple are campus lovers. This gloomy stepsister has to butt in. I heard that she was a delinquent girl when she was at school and often bullied Vivian. She's really desperate to be famous. I heard that she's an unknown dancer. Dancing? Is it some kind of sexy dance? Looking at her appearance, she must have had plastic surgery. She's completely overshadowed by Vivian's cold and noble goddess aura. During that period, I was doxxed, cyberbullied, and abandoned by the whole world. All of this was thanks to them. So, this time, I would never make the same mistake again. Aurelia, if you regret it in the future, don't come crying to us. Aunt Maxwell viciously threw out the sentence as if she was certain that I would have a miserable life in the future. Maxwell stood aside, surprised at my words and deeds, and angrily questioned me, Aurelia, how could you talk to my parents like that? Do you have a conscience? I disdainfully curled my lips and showed a cold smile. No, I'm a white-eyed wolf. Please leave me alone. Maxwell's parents dragged him away and told him, son, let's go home. Don't have anything to do with her anymore. I stood there quietly for a long time. It was so long that I didn't react until Kyler suddenly hugged me. He asked me in a low voice, Aurelia, did you lie to me? Were you unhappy in your previous life? My eyelids trembled, and my nose felt a bit sour. Actually, we didn't get together right after graduating from high school. I chased after Maxwell for many years and ended up getting hurt all over. When I was 25 years old, my depression was so severe that I attempted suicide and accidentally fell off the stage. At that time, you showed up and said, Aurelia, I'm the world champion now. I'll help you clear your name. Marry me, and I'll make you the happiest person in the world and piss off that pair of scumbags. On the day we got our marriage certificate, you announced in front of the media, this is my wife, the girl I've had a crush on for many years. Many people scolded you for being blinded by beauty and unfollowed you one after another, but you didn't care. You said that athletes are judged by their achievements. You took me everywhere to see doctors for my leg, helped me with rehabilitation, played the piano for me when I was anxious, and sang for me. You hugged me to sleep and became my exclusive sleeping pill. I was slowly healed by you and returned to the stage. I hugged him tightly and whispered in his ear, all the days with you were happy ones. He patted my back gently. But I still showed up too late. I leaned against Kyler's arms, not letting him see the tears in my eyes. I didn't tell him that we didn't stay happy all the time. Kyler married me at the peak of his career. At that time, he had won the Grand Slam and was a national hero. But an athlete's prime years are only a few. No one can stay at the top forever. However, everyone had extremely high expectations for him. Even if he got a runner-up, he would be scolded for being distracted from training because of me. Until one competition, he was already injured and unexpectedly had a high fever before the competition. I was so worried that I insisted that he withdraw from the competition. But at that time, a crazy fan swung a knife at me, shouting that it was all because I was dragging him down. And Kyler subconsciously shielded me behind him. As the college entrance examination approached, Kyler and I were making up for our cultural courses while crazily improving our professional skills. Fortunately, in the new round of competitions, Kyler won the provincial championship. I devoted all my energy to the art exam. On the day of the exam, I touched his gold medal and rubbed it crazily for good luck. With the bonus of the gold medal, I performed steadily all the way. Surprisingly, I got the first place in the art exam. As soon as I came out of the examination room, I wanted to give him a big hug. Unexpectedly, I accidentally ran into the male god I adored. He was really tall and handsome, and he even greeted me, hello, you danced really well just now. I was so happy that I asked Kyler to take a picture for us. The male god looked at someone with a gloomy face and asked curiously, who is he? Oh, he's my classmate. On the way back, someone was like a resentful woman. Who's a classmate? Why don't you call me husband anymore? Do you stop loving me after you got me? I said, shut up. Am I just a mistress? Am I just a joke? He shut up immediately. I secretly poked him in the waist. When can I kiss you? His face turned red. Wait, until there's no one around. Before long, the college entrance examination results were announced. Both Kyler and I passed the admission lines and received the admission notices from the schools we had been longing for. However, what I didn't expect was that Maxwell didn't go to study abroad. Instead, he and Vivian both got admitted to the same university in Beijing. The combination of the top student and the study god from the same class still caused quite a stir in the school. They would still participate in competitions together and win awards together. On the school forum, someone posted a photo of the two of them and sighed that they were a perfect match. Facing everyone's discussions, Maxwell directly denied it. Just classmates. I have someone I like. Later, some people found that he seemed to really have someone he liked. He liked watching classical dance performances. Every time he went, he would hold a bouquet of sunflowers. Some people guessed that it was for the girl he liked. By that time, we were already sophomores. Thanks to his excellent grades, Kyler entered the national team. I became an internet celebrity overnight because I worked as a dance double in a hit TV series. Netizens were full of praise. Aurelia's dancing is so amazing. It's no wonder that she got the first place in the art exam back then. With such a face and figure, sister, don't you consider entering the entertainment industry? I heard that sister has a performance recently. I'll stay up all night to grab tickets. The theater performances were all sold out. Then some people began to notice. In the front row of each performance, there was always a guy holding a bouquet of sunflowers, quietly watching the stage. Later, somehow, it was rumored that the guy was a top student from a prestigious university and was my childhood sweetheart. Netizens began to ship us crazily. At this time, Vivian posted a photo of her and Maxwell in a competition on the internet with the caption, "The people who understand each other best." However, this time she was greeted with a flood of criticism. Hey lady. Maxwell has already denied it. You're just classmates. What are you trying to gain by clinging to him? Sister, are you so desperate to be famous? Vivian, when you were at school, you looked down on others because of your good grades. Everyone was quite disgusted with you. What does their childhood sweetheart relationship have to do with you? Who gave you the confidence that Maxwell would like you? You look so scheming and malicious. In terms of figure, appearance, and temperament, you're completely overshadowed by Aurelia. The gossip news on the internet was extremely popular for a while. Maxwell's parents even accepted media interviews and said, "Aurelia, she's our daughter-in-law." She and Maxwell were childhood sweethearts and had an arranged marriage when they were children. After Aurelia's parents passed away, we took her home, trained her in dancing, and treated her like our own daughter. Looking at the completely different attitudes of the couple, I just found it funny. I rejected all their calls trying to make up with me and instead sent the contract that I had asked a lawyer to draft back then. It clearly stated the money they had earned from my family's business over the years. I thought this couple was so kind. Unexpectedly, they were just trying to take advantage of the situation. Aurelia has been dancing since she was 7 years old. How could it be your cultivation? You sucked her blood and still wanted her to be grateful. How shameless. Many media chased me to ask about my relationship with Maxwell. I heard that Maxwell is your childhood sweetheart? I thought for a moment, we're from the same village, but we're not close. I then posted a Weibo post and at Kyler, "This is my husband-to-be." For a while, Kyler's account gained countless followers. Oh my god. No wonder Aurelia chose him. As expected, all the handsome guys are dedicated to the country, with such a muscular body and long legs. I can't imagine how happy it would be to sleep on it. What a perfect match. I'm shipping them hard. That night, I slept on his 8-pack abs and was extremely happy. He was no longer at the age when he would get angry just because he was touched. He had a lot of tricks and was especially hardworking. I gradually couldn't handle it. You've already swum 3,000 meters. Why do you still have so much energy left? Go to sleep. I'm so sleepy. I protested loudly, pressing his mischievous hands. Button up your clothes. He nimbly dodged and said in a low and hoarse voice, "Baby, how can it be called sleeping with clothes on?" After the performance, I still saw Maxwell again. This guy was really annoying. When I was chasing after him back then, he ignored me. Now that I was avoiding him, he was like a mangy dog that couldn't be shaken off. He was holding flowers with a lonely look on his face. "Aurelia, I know that I did a lot of things that made you sad in the past. But I really like you. Over the years, I always thought that you would look back at me someday." He lowered his head, his voice was hoarse, and his eyes were red. "I don't understand why you suddenly stopped caring about me." I took a deep breath and tried hard to calm myself down, but the scenes from my previous life always seemed like a desperate dream. "Maxwell, I had a dream. After graduation, you left me and went abroad to study with Vivian. You said that we would get married after you graduated. I waited and waited. When you graduated, you said that you needed to have a career before you could marry me and asked me to wait a little longer. Later, you and Vivian started a business together. You spent day and night together, admired each other, and became the golden couple in everyone's eyes. No one knew that I was your girlfriend. At that time, I begged you to come and watch my performance. Even if you came just once and sent me a flower, I would forgive you. But you, not even once." He was stunned there, looking a bit incredulous. I looked at him and smiled bitterly. "You said, what's the level of that small theater? Do you know how busy I was every day?" "Yes, you were busy dating Vivian. You rang the bell at the NASDAQ together, traveled together, and met each other's parents together. I waited for you for so many years. I was unwilling, but what could I do? Everyone thought that I was the vicious female supporting character. In fact, I was sick for a long time. Finally, I tried to commit suicide many times like a madman. Facing my repeated moral blackmail, you got annoyed and said that you would marry me. Wasn't that enough? But on the eve of our wedding, Vivian sent me her pregnancy report. And I, in a daze, fell from the high stage and became lame. I closed my eyes, feeling my throat tighten. Finally, your parents gave me a sum of money and asked me to fend for myself." He was stunned for a moment and then explained in a flustered manner, How could I do such a thing? I wouldn't do that, Aurelia. I said that I would always protect you. It was just a dream." I shook my head indifferently. "No. Maxwell, I may not be smart enough, but I'm not stupid either." I looked straight at him. "Do you really like me?" "No, you're just unwilling to let go. You're so smart. You know what I like, why I'm unhappy, and how to coax me. But you just refuse to do it and let me be wronged again and again. What you enjoy is just my admiration for you and Vivian's appreciation for you. You just want to have it all. Put away your cheap affection. I don't value it, and you don't deserve it." After entering the national team, Kyler began to participate in international competitions. He also broke his own performance records time and time again. The whole world witnessed his brilliance. After becoming a little famous, I focused all my attention on preparing for the Tally Cup competition. The Tally Cup is the most prestigious honor in the dance field. My mother's biggest regret before her death was that she didn't win the championship. I made up my mind to do my best to make up for her regret. Kyler and I didn't have much time together. On a rare occasion, we were on a date near the school. We had just walked a few steps when a car suddenly rushed out from the intersection. And Kyler reacted almost instantly, shielding me behind him. After a loud bang, we both fell to the ground. The scenes of his blood-covered body in my previous life flashed through my mind one by one. It felt as if my heart was tightly grasped by an invisible big hand. I was trembling all over and shouting his name at the top of my lungs, Kyler. Baby, I'm okay. It's okay. He was busy coaxing me, don't cry, don't cry. It's just a scratch. It's okay. I was already in tears, trembling as I touched his face, crying uncontrollably, asshole, you scared me to death. You're not dead, you're not dead. I hugged him tightly, don't get hurt, don't bleed, and don't shield me in front of me in the future. He nodded repeatedly, okay, okay, okay. But I didn't know that no matter how many times we started over, at the moment when danger came, he would still subconsciously protect me. After a long time, we finally came to our senses. Only then did we realize that the person in the car was Vivian. Aurelia, you're still alive. She stared at me fixedly, her face was pale, and her eyes were empty. However, her facial features had already changed. It looked so fake, with obvious signs of plastic surgery. There was a rumor for a while that Vivian had started getting plastic surgery like crazy. I didn't pay attention to it at first, but it turned out to be true. Once, some high school classmates gossiped that she had confessed her love to Maxwell. Maxwell refused her without hesitation and said that her behavior was really degrading. Vivian was unwilling to accept it and asked why. Maxwell impatiently dropped a sentence, for many things, maybe you'll find the answer if you look in the mirror more often. At that time, many people on the internet scolded her for being an ugly person who made a fuss. She started getting plastic surgery and became more and more dissatisfied with her face. But I heard that her family wasn't very wealthy. Later, she started taking out online loans. She delayed a lot in her studies and was even given a disciplinary punishment by the school. Finally, unable to pay off her debts, she even became a mistress for a middle-aged boss. Vivian stared at me like a madwoman, shouting at the top of her lungs, it's all because of you. My whole life has been ruined because of you. Aurelia, why are you adored by everyone while I can only live in the shadows? Obviously, I'm much better than you. I smiled calmly, maybe it's karma. I looked at Vivian, who used to be so arrogant and conceited but was now so down and out, and was silent for a moment. Call the police. In the year when we graduated from university, all the efforts paid off. I won the Tally Cup championship. As soon as I got off the stage, I saw someone holding flowers and waving his arms. I happily ran into his arms and asked him, did I dance beautifully? Beautiful like a fairy. He stared at me like an infatuated guy. Doubt King Zhou of Shang, understand King Zhou of Shang, become King Zhou of Shang. In the same year, Kyler represented the country to compete in the Olympics. At the age of 22, he swam vigorously in the swimming pool, leaving the world record yellow line behind with astonishing speed and perseverance, achieving another transcendence. At the awards ceremony, he watched the five-starred red flag rising slowly, with his eyes turning red. When interviewed by the reporters from the motherland, he couldn't hold back his emotions anymore and burst into tears excitedly. Thanks to the motherland, thanks to the coaches, thanks to my wife. His voice was choked with sobs, and tears kept falling. He became more and more excited. Finally, several reporters gathered around to comfort him. Just then, it seemed that he suddenly remembered something. He fumbled in his pocket in a flustered manner and took out a diamond ring with trembling hands. He couldn't stop crying. The reporters looked at me helplessly, extremely anxious. Please say yes to him quickly. Otherwise, we really can't calm him down. I looked at this embarrassing guy, feeling both amused and helpless. I quickly went over to hug him and put the ring on my finger. Oh, okay. I'll marry you. After a long time, he asked me with a red face, baby, was I really embarrassing just now? He sighed, well, it's okay. He raised both hands to promise, next time I definitely won't cry. I gave him an eye roll speechlessly. He always said that every time, but he always shed tears. Half of the water in the swimming pool was probably his tears. In the following years, Kyler represented the country and won honors again and again. Thanks to my efforts, I also stepped onto a bigger stage. At the age of 28, Kyler couldn't swim competitively anymore and retired with a whole body of honors. He began to lead young athletes to break his own records. I also gave the stage to young dancers and went back to teach on the podium. In this year, we started our plan to have a baby. I asked him a bit worriedly, do you think our child will be particularly stupid? He said that if the child was excellent, he or she would serve the country. If the child was mediocre, he or she would stay by our side to make us happy. Neither of us had a complete family or love when we were young. We would raise our childhood selves again. In the 10th year after graduation, we participated in the school celebration as outstanding graduates. There were several former classmates with us. Suddenly, someone mentioned, "Hey, do you know Maxwell? It seems that his family went bankrupt. I heard that when he started a business after graduation, he made a lot of money by buying land and building buildings. Later, the industry was in a downturn, the capital chain was broken, and it seemed that he also lost a lot of money in investments. Now the company has gone bankrupt and has been enforced." I was a bit distracted for a moment and suddenly felt that this name was so strange. "Hey, Aurelia, did you like him back then?" I shook my head vigorously, "No way.